welcome back to Sarah's Computer Sessions. Today we will be dealing with functions and header files in brief. See, functions and all has to be taken in detail while we learn programming. So I will be taking functions in detail later. But then just to understand what function is and why do we actually need functions, this video is all about functions and header files. I'll be mentioning what header files are and how to write a header file. Okay, so let's move on to the video. Okay, in the last class we had dealt with statements basically, and since declaration and definition is too much related with statements, I had taken both of them along with statements itself. So today I will be dealing with functions or subroutines. What do you mean by functions? Like, what does the term function has to do with in a real life scenario? Let's see. It is associated with the job being done by a particular object or device. Say, for example, you take mm, a mixer grinder that you usually use in kitchen. It has a specific job that it does, right? Or if you take a washing machine, it washes clothes. Iron box, it actually, we use iron box to press clothes. So every device, most of the devices that you have at home is actually doing something specific to its own. So those jobs that these devices do can actually be called as its functions, right? So let me give you another example that has more relation to the functions that we use inside programming. Suppose at your home or in the apartment where you stay, uh, you might have someone to help you, right? Like, um, for example, let's take the example of an apartment. Now, in the flat you stay, there might be a lot of work that you can do, and there will be certain jobs that you cannot do. Like, for example, some of the maintenance works cannot be done by yourself. There may be people who does all the work that comes in relation with flat or home, but then if you need someone to help you, there might be like in the apartments and all, there might be a helper boy who will be there for your help at your help whenever you call him. So if suppose you have some maintenance work and you cannot do it on your own, the first thing that you do is like you give a call to this helper boy, and this helper boy will come, do the work and give you the result and go back. Like, it's like calling someone, and this someone will be coming, doing the work, giving you the result and going back. So the function that we use in programming has somewhat somewhat the same concept. So in programming, functions are associated with a job being done by a particular program or a program segment. See, we know that a program itself does something. uh, we can call it a job or a collection of jobs to reach a solution for a particular problem. So the program or a program segment or some of the statements of the program, if they do a specific job, we can call those statement blocks as functions, or we can convert those statement blocks into functions. Okay, let's see functions in detail. Not the programming part, just the explanation of what actually a function is and why you use the function concept in a program. Since I have not started the programming, I will be explaining this in terms of the flowchart that I'm going to show you. In this slide, you can see that this is a flowchart for a very simple problem or a program. It starts with the start statement and then goes from statement 1, statement 2 till the last statement, which will be statement n, and the program stops. Now the statements that I have written in the rectangle blocks can be symbol statements or compound statements. I have taken the class in statements. I think my last video is about statements. So if you have not watched the video, please go and watch and study statements and come back here. Okay. So this is a flowchart that we can give for a simple program. Now, in case of a large program, obviously it starts and executes line by line until there can be blocks of statements inside a larger program. Like um, we know that a statement block actually is identified by a pair of braces that we use along with the statement block. And this statement block, see, like if will have each of the statement inside the statement block will be having relation to each other, and the statement block may do a specific job. If that is the case, see how this flowchart goes. After the statement block 1, the statements get executed until I reach statement M, and then statement M plus 1. Now the continuation of the flowchart can be done using this particular uh, uh, object, the circle and a cross within. Okay, now after statement M plus 1, if suppose I need to write again the block, so there will be circumstances or certain programs demand multiple uh, times the statement block to be written, like the same statement block to be written multiple times. So when that is the case, a lot of disadvantages come by. Like you are actually writing something, you're duplicating something, you're wasting your time by writing it multiple times. In this example, I've just repeated the statement block just once, but if your program demands your statement block to be executed again and again, maybe n number of times, writing the statement blocks repeatedly will not be a better programming practice. So it contains this, or it will have disadvantages when there are circumstances, there arise circumstances where statement blocks will be will have to be written many number of times. Okay, so here in this example, I have started from statement 1, statement 2. I'm having a statement block 1, and then like I'm going statement wise, and then I can see that I have to write my statement block again, and then I'm again continuing the execution until I reach statement N and the program stops. So I am going to explain how to convert this particular flowchart into a flowchart which has a function in it. Okay, if suppose I am converting the statement block 1 into a function, let's see how it can be done. See, suppose I have written statement block as a function with a function name and whatever has to be followed as rules to write a function. I have followed all the rules and I have written a function. Okay, assume that I have written a function. How will the program change? Okay, I'll start the program starting from statement 1, statement 2. Last slide, you could see that this is the portion where the statement block 1 had been written. So instead of writing the statement block as a whole there, I've just written a single statement, which is a function call. I am calling the function from this particular line or this particular location, similar to similar to the case where you call a helper boy to help you with the maintenance work that you cannot do. Okay, so when you call a function, what happens is control is being shifted from that particular statement to the function's first statement or the function header where the function is being written inside the program, and the function performs the execution of the statements that is written within the function, and the result is that is obtained after execution will be transferred back or returned back to the calling statement. Again, the continuation of execution will be there from the next statement, and it goes like statement by statement, statement m plus 1, and then again this is the portion where I had written a statement block 1 in a repetitive format. I had written for the second time in the last slide. So there again, this function is being called. So whenever we are calling a function, control will be transferred to the function where the function is written, and there the execution of the statements inside the function happens, and the result will be transferred back to the calling point. Okay, again, the execution of the program continues until the stop statement is reached, or the last final statement is reached. So this is the whole concept of functions. Like when you include functions in your program, this is what happens. Like whenever there will be a situation where you have to execute the function, you call the function, and the function will get executed, and the result will be transferred back to the calling point. So just understand this concept. We will be dealing with functions along with programs uh, lately. So, and then you'll be understanding it better practically when you implement functions inside your program. Okay, now let's see the two types of functions. Functions are broadly classified into two. First one is library functions, and the next one is user defined functions. Now, by the term library, I've already taken keywords and stuffs where I had told you C has a library, a vocabulary where certain things are defined. So there are functions that are already defined inside the library, which we can use according to our requirement. For example, if we have to print a value on the monitor, the function that we have to use is printf. This printf function is already defined inside the C library. Okay, so we have to point to the library and say that yes, I have to use the print function. Then we'll see how everything is done like that. Okay, now the second category is the user defined functions, and those are the ones that we write. Okay, so the major difference that I can point out, the visible difference, is that every function should have a name. So user defined function means we are giving the name, but the name for all the library functions are already defined, and we will not be able to change the name of the library functions. Okay, so that is the visible difference that I can just give you. Now there are a lot of other differences, and that we will study when we deal with functions in detail. Now next, let's see why actually we do need these functions. Okay, the first important point that we have to notice, functions are used so as to reduce code redundancy. Now what do you mean by redundancy? It's just duplication. In the second slide where I had given you the example of a large program where statement blocks was repeated twice, right? I am actually duplicating the first statement block again. I'm writing it again. There are a lot of disadvantages for duplication inside programming. See, I'll explain it with the next point. The next point is easy maintenance. That means debugging and editing. Suppose your statement block or the function has more than 100 lines. Suppose, just assume, and you got to have errors inside the function. Now, if you write these functions everywhere where you have to call these functions, like if you duplicate the function statements, what happens? All the errors will be duplicated, and you will have to sit and correct wherever these errors are. But when you are using the concept of functions, the function will only be written once. You may use more functions in your program. It's not like just one function, one program. No, you can use as many functions as you like in a program. So, but then whenever error happens and whenever you have to correct these errors, it becomes easier if you introduce the concept of functions in your program. You don't have to go and correct everywhere where the everywhere where it is repeated. Like if you're repeating the function, if you're repeating the statement blocks, you will have to go and correct your errors, find your errors from everywhere inside the program where they are repeated. But since like we are including the concept of functions, if we are including the concept of functions, the maintenance becomes easy. Now the next point is in the code, when you include functions, the code becomes modular in nature. What do you mean by modularity? Now, the best example that I can give you is your syllabus. Whichever syllabus you study, students, you know that the different subjects in your single semesters are actually divided into different modules, module 1, module 2, module 3, etc. What is the purpose of dividing that subject into modules? For easy study, for better teaching, and to give you a direction to how, or how much you can organize your studies. So that is the same modularity that can be implemented using functions inside a program. The program will be neat and organized when you implement functions. Okay, so the next point is that functions provide abstraction. What do you mean by abstract? Like when you have to do a project, you might be asked to submit the abstract at first. So it's like a concise matter of what your project is all about. Like that, functions also give abstraction to programming. Like for example, when you're calling the function, you don't have to write the whole function there. You just mentioning the function name, you're just making it concise. Okay, so functions provide abstraction. The last point is reusability. So like library functions in C, we use most of the functions that are defined inside C programming according to our requirement. The frequently used functions are the printf and the scanf, and they are the input and the output and input functions. So the whole concept of functions is that all the functions that we write, all the functions that are defined inside the library can be used more than once according to the requirement of the program and the programmer. Okay, now let's talk about a function that is called as the main function, and which is a compulsory function that should be written inside every program that you write. Okay, so usually we write as main and a pair of parentheses or brackets. Now this is the starting point of the program. Wherever you have written main inside the program, that line will be the starting point of the program. When the program starts execution, the control is transferred to this main function. Okay, and a program may contain one or more functions, as I had mentioned before. And out of these one or more functions that you write, one function should be the main function. Okay, and the function will, or every function will always have a name and a pair of parentheses after the name. Sometimes you will have other data inside the parentheses that I will be dealing with when I'll teach functions in detail. But what you have to understand here is that the name of the main function cannot be changed. Okay, it is already defined and this cannot be changed according to what we wish. And after the execution of the function, the control returns to the calling point. And in the case of main, the control returns to the operating system. Okay, so what do functions return? Something has been returned, right? The output of the function has been returned, and this output is merely data. Now, when I had taught data types, I had mentioned clearly about the different kinds of data that we can use inside a program. So all those data can be returned from a function. But there are cases where there is nothing to return. So in those cases, we use 0. Okay, default return value is 0. So we have finished functions. Now we'll move on to header files. Now what do you mean by header file? Header files are file containing C declarations and macro definitions to be shared among the various source files, compiler, preprocessor, C library, and other header files. See, I had given you, and I had mentioned to you earlier that we use library functions, like for example, printf, that is used to display values onto the screen. So we cannot just mention printf and execute the program. We have to actually mention where the printf lies. So all these functions, library functions, lies in or are saved inside files known as header files. So whenever we use these predefined or library functions, we have to mention the associated header files inside the program. Usually the mentioning process, you know, is actually belong to the first few lines of the program. So usually the header files with .h extension is used, but there are header files with other extensions also, and should be included in the programs as I mentioned, as per requirement. Now, an example, let me say, see, the printf function that we use frequently actually resides in a header file known as stdio, standard input output. So stdio is a file name. Okay, so whenever you include these header files, you have to write the file name dot its extension. Mostly the extension will be .h. If you are using a header file with other extension, you have to specify that. Okay, now, and then we have to enclose the file name .h within the greater than less than symbol, and then precede it with a hash include. I will be mentioning about this hash include in my next video, where I will be detailing about the structure of a program. Okay, so okay then, so these are all about the header files, just brushed up in brief about header files. Okay, so we have finished key elements of a program. So in the next class, I'm planning to take how to write a program or a structure of a program. So we will be starting programs lightly from the next class. Now, I am well aware of the fact that, you know, there uh, happens to be some delay in my uploading. Please bear with me, because I am not a free person who can sit in front of the system and prepare and give the videos right away. I'm a mother of a child who is 3 years old, so it's only at the time that she sleeps that I can, give my time for this work. So I've started this channel just because my passion is teaching. Okay, so I hope that you'll understand me and you'll bear with me. And also, I've applied for an internship program which will be starting soon. So about the next few videos, I doubt whether I will be able to, give my uploads at the proper time. But then I'll do my best to to upload my sessions in time. If you have any suggestions or comments, please leave a comment, and or you can mail me. I'll give my mail ID here. So please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. God bless you.